Welcome back, and next up aligned is Vivek Lall's interview. He is a world-renowned scientist and chief executive of General Atomics Global Corporation. Before joining General Atomics, Vivek has worked in the past at Lockheed Martin and held key positions with Boeing and Reliance as well. Vivek Lall is a world-renowned scientist and chief executive of General Atomics Global Corporation. Before joining General Atomics, Vivek worked at Lockheed Martin and held various positions with Boeing and Reliance. Vivek was affiliated with the United Nations in New York to advise on broadband and cybersecurity issues for challenges within the global community. Well, hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX VaKu. My name is Megha Sharma, and joining me on the broadcast is a very special guest, Vivek Lall. He's the Chief Executive of General Atomics Global Corporation, which is a leading aerospace, defense, and tech company based out of United States. Vivek has been in the United States for a very long time, making India proud and Indians proud across the entire world, because not only has he been in the defense sector and currently heading General Atomics Global Corporation, he's also been part of the Lockheed Martin Corporation, Boeing. Back in India, you were also dealing with Reliance. It's exciting sphere of things that you have found yourself in. You've built a career for yourself, and it's a dynamic, strategic arena to be in. If you could share some more light into what all it entails, how difficult and challenging can things be, and at the same time, how much you enjoy the entire process of being in this sector.
Thank you, Megha. It's a pleasure and honor to be with you and our viewers. Yes, so I've had a passion for airplanes from a very young age, and therefore aerospace and defense has been close to my heart all my life, having lived in different parts of the world growing up, whether it's Europe or the US or Africa or Asia. I've had the rare opportunity to see what are some of the motivators and challenges in different parts of the world when it comes to technology and research and development and so forth. And I find that in the sector that I'm in, which is heavily dependent on R&D and innovation, there are some common aspirations and passions of people around the world to help contribute and further the science. Mm-hmm. And so in that regard, it's very humbling that I was part of this journey that saw a lot of growth over the last 30 years. And I think some of the challenge, of course, remains that as we expand into this area, one needs greater and greater innovation and collaboration, not just collaboration within a country, but collaboration across the world.
Absolutely. And very recently you were in India, and it's an annual sojourn that you make because of the kind of ties India and United States shares when it comes to the defense and strategic sector as well. Has there been a dramatic transformational change that you witnessed in terms of what India was as a defense power maybe 10 years ago, a decade ago, or 2 decades ago, and what it is as it has gone ahead and positioned itself now?
Absolutely, Megha. I think the US-India defense relationship has emerged very significantly in the last decade or two. And I think compared to where things are to where things were, I think one of the biggest shifts has been the confluence of the congruence of two nations with common objectives, common goals, and shared democratic principles and values. And so in that regard, whether it's the military to military ties or the defense trade or the willingness to look at co-development and co-production, all those areas have seen a remarkable increase over the last many years. And it's very encouraging, and I think it's just the beginning of a very strong relationship in many of these areas.
Talk to us about your personal journey you've been raised in Indonesia, you were in Asia, you yourself said that you've traveled various parts of the world, including living in Europe. At this point of time, you're in the United States. Has there been a perceptual shift in the way the Indian community is looked upon by all these foreign nationals, for that matter, natives of those particular regions that you've lived in? What more can be done at this point of time to bring about that sort of an image change that perhaps India has already gone ahead and brought about in ways and means that are now very, very visible in terms of how the world perceives India at this time?
Absolutely, Megha. I think there has been a very significant change as I reflect back over the 30 years and different geographic locations that you mentioned. The respect for India, the respect for Indians, and what the contributions of the Indian diaspora have been around the world, and the strong people-to-people ties with India and the various nations. They've just gone through a dramatic positive shift. And I think as a result, if you look at any of the economies, including the US, a lot of the engine for in many sectors is driven by Indian Americans, as an example. And so you look at the levels that people have reached in the different corporate arenas, or as well as the governments itself, one will find great improvement and great respect for what India and Indians have done around the world.
And people like you who have made quite the change. You are the influencers when it comes to the Indian diaspora. You are the voice of the Indian community. And when you talk about the defense and strategic sector, your name crops up every single time. And you being such a significant voice, is there a way to amplify the story of the enterprising Indians and the culture and the ethos of India to the world? If there could be a platform that could be created, or is it already being done by the likes of you?
I think there are 6 buckets of stakeholders that continually affect change, affect policies, affect progress. And I think as Indian Americans and as being part of the Indian diaspora, these stakeholders are important to keep in mind as we move forward. To name a few, one is the industry captains. The industry captains on both sides, whether US and India, have a significant role in furthering ties. The other set of stakeholders would be the bureaucracy on both sides and understanding the 2 different systems and how to continue to find convergence so that there's value created for both systems. Then, of course, is the political spectrum on both sides, and shared democratic values and principles, and continuing to make sure that converges in the future. I think media and the great work that you're doing in terms of enhancing the visibility and the commonality between the 2 nations and trying to make progress, that has a very significant role at large. And then, of course, I do feel that no matter which field, whether it is IT or defense or finance or healthcare, I think the Indian diaspora has come to the forefront. And so anything that can be done to encourage and to highlight the good work that's been going on will certainly help in this process.
And while there may have been several of these fora, these clubs, these platforms that may have been created to build about the community and the stronghold that it has at this point of time in various continents, America, especially when you talk about, because you've been living there forever. And at this point of time, there are only just a handful of individuals. You will talk about a Sundar Pichai, or you talk about a Sunil Mittal that people have heard of, and they are recognized. And beyond a point, you just, you don't have a choice, or you are just trying to struggle to figure out names of the Indian Americans or the Indian Europeans or those who are living in Africa or Asia or Australia who've done fantastic work. So is there already something that is being built at this point to recognize these people who are doing fantastic work, but at the same time are not as recognized as their counterparts in, say, a Pichai or a Mittal. And if there could be a push that could be taken in that direction to bring about this entire experience, to amplify their voices, to celebrate and recognize their feats, and bring them on global arena.
Absolutely. I think it's very important to get those unsung heroes identified and showcased, if you will, that have not only bettered the economy of whichever country they're living in or bettered the living conditions for people in the community, but also, on a bilateral basis or a multilateral basis. And so to give those folks a voice and be an inspiration for the next generations to come to see all the work that has been done, I think there is a certain vacuum, if you will, and I do feel that needs to be filled. I think there are various chambers of commerce and associations that try and highlight that in the different countries. Mm-hmm. But still, I think the road is long ahead, and there's a lot that can be done in that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vivek, for joining me on this very special broadcast. We'll continue to have you on our special shows in the future as well. Well, for that moment, this is Megha signing off from VaKu, NewsX VaKu. Continue to watch this show.
NewsX ITV network have proudly launched the VaKu Diaspora Broadcasting Network.
VaKu DBN will be India's first mainstream platform dedicated to the diaspora community. Help support us. Become VaKu patrons at memboro.com/VaKu. You will get the first access to our interviews, make recommendations, merchandise access, ask questions, and get a shout out of thanks on our TV shows.
You can also suggest to us who should get the VaKu Golden Chakra Awards and also tell us who should get into the VaKu Hall of Fame. Limited memberships are available at 100 rupees per month on Memboro VaKu.
Sign up now. Log on to memboro.com/VaKu.